planning in Northamptonshire. I give a bit of a background to the campaign, and I was hoping that we might be joined by Eric Franks, who leads the American 30 Days, 30 Ways. So back in 2015, I took part previous years in the Americans 30 Days, 30 Ways. And I totally thought it was absolutely fabulous. Went back into the office. Every day is a different theme about what we should be learning about preparedness. Laid colleagues on the floor into the recovery position to actually show, first aid tips. And I got a voucher 2 years running for America. And I thought, well, why can't we bring this to Northamptonshire to start with? So I came up with about 40 ideas for themes for each day. The aim is that each day we'll learn just a little snippet of something, whether it's test your smoke alarm, learn a first aid skill, to be a good neighbour. So we got 30 themes for each day and launched it in 2015. It went quite well, and then a couple of years we still running it, and then obviously partners joined in, which was fabulous. But the whole theme about 30 days is that we have a theme each day that people can join through social media. So it's all done on social media, and they can learn about those themes each day. With us though, because the Americans sort of worked out all the points that people were playing and gave them prizes at the end, we have a bingo sheet. So each day you can tick it off on the bingo sheet, and you can actually keep a record of what you've done each day. The issue that we've had, well, not an issue, is that it's quite time consuming for people to play, and we want to try and encourage more players. So we've built up a good rapport with all of our resilience colleagues in the UK, and we've got quite a lot of other counties, police forces joining us each day. But we want to try and get more players to get involved. And for that, some people, they'll work all week and then want to catch up in the week. So the whole thing about having these panels is that we can have experts on the panels to actually give us a bit of a recap of what the week was, so people over the weekend can catch up on those days. So we've got different themes each week. This is obviously the first panel we've had. And this panel is just to introduce 30 days on a whole. I'd now like to introduce the panelists. So we do have, we've got Tara Cunningham and Joan McCaffrey from Northern Ireland. Welcome, ladies. We've also got Hugh Thomas from David Powers Police. So you're representing Wales. I feel a bit like Eurovision master here. And we've also, thank you, Jenny. We've got Jenny Barr from the University Planning Society, and we've also got Professor Lucy Easthope. Lucy, I've put University of Durham, but you also connected with the University of Bath as well. So, Lucy, I'm really pleased, and I'll introduce you a bit more when it comes to the programme. When I introduce you. So if we start with having a bit of a roundup what we're doing. So as I said, that there's quite a lot of organisations that are taking part now. So it's not just Northamptonshire. We encourage others to play and share best practice within their resilience communities. So, what we do here in Northamptonshire, what people do in Hampshire. So what we're trying to do, and then is share best practice. So resilience people can actually look at what the people are doing, and the communities and residents can actually see what they should be doing in an emergency. So we've sort of joined by Wales and Northern Ireland. So I know you've been doing a lot in Wales and Northern Ireland. But if I come with Tara and Joan first about what you're doing in Northern Ireland, I know you've got sort of Northern Ireland prepared. How are you working with sort of 30 Days, 30 Ways UK and integrating that with what you're doing in Northern Ireland?
Tara, are you okay for me to start? Yeah. So look, we're, I suppose, very much a collective here. Myself and Tara work in the same team. Northern Ireland is a very small place. We have 11 councils and we have 3 emergency preparedness groups, which would be equivalent to LRFs across the rest of the UK. So we're a very small community, and we have only 1 police force, 1 ambulance force, and 1 fire service, which always helps in trying to have consistency in public messaging, etc. So you're right, Joanne. We did start this campaign in 2018, and we weren't really affiliated to the 30 Days, 30 Ways campaign. However, we used it as a, I suppose, as a platform, and we had this hashtag Be Ready NI. But over the years, we have seen the success of 30 Ways, 30 Days, and we've seen how well, you know, particularly to the whole social media trends, how that has really worked. So we have been trying to incorporate the 30 Days, 30 Ways, and particularly since 2020. So we don't use every day. We don't go every day as you suppose as a recommendation. We have several messages. We're leading with 8 key partners throughout the month, starting off with our NI Direct, which is our Northern Ireland Government website, just ready to kick off the campaign. And actually Monica emailed this morning to say that we were actually 8th in reach yesterday, so that was really impressive for us. Very small part of the UK, I think, representing about 3%. So that was really, really positive, and we've actually sent that out this morning to our partners, just to provide, you know, a bit of a boast about how useful this is and how what a reach you potentially have. So as I said, we started off with NI Direct, and that's really providing like a single point of access to all our public sector information services on preparedness, response and recovery. So it's a great start to the campaign. So we've chosen 10 days to align with the national campaign, possibly 12 if we get another partner on, and really that's just linking in and using the whole 30 Days, 30 Ways branding, etc., and to maximize the reach. What we do in Northern Ireland, we have a few affiliated groups, our Public Information and Media Group, which comprises about 50 different public, private sector, community and voluntary sector organisations, and they then reshare and retweet. And this year, again, back on the basis of the evaluation that took place last year, which we were really grateful for because it did help us to review and kind of repivot our campaign. We are asking all our bodies to retweet with a comment at the same at the same time always using the 30 Days, 30 Ways and our Be Ready NI handle. We're also asking our 11 councils or emergency planning officers to share their content internally, and also to feature 30 Days, 30 Ways UK email signature for the month of September. So it's really getting that public awareness, but also awareness within our, you know, our emergency preparedness and our civil contingency structures internally as well. Our council is Armagh, Banbridge, Craigavon, and we actually host, you know, the regional resilience team. And our stats showed last year that we had over 40,000 citizens that showed that reach during our campaign. So we hope to build on that this year, and certainly Tara has worked tirelessly over the summer, and it does be difficult that September start because it's all new school year. People come back off leave, so it's a difficult August to get that really good start to September. But Tara has very successfully done that this year, so we hope at the end of the month to have a really positive story. And I just think with the current environment we're living in, and I suppose even, you know, this weekend about the misinformation piece, like it's so important that, you know, people are getting trusted information, concise information, accurate information and timely information. So really delighted to be part of it, and hopefully it will continue and grow bigger. And even just from the history that you're saying that I didn't realise, Joanne, it's been a brilliant initiative.
Thank you, Joan. That's really nice. Oh, that seemed to be. I've gotten feedback. No, sorry. Technically in this building is terrible. We shall continue. Tara, did you want to add anything onto that?
No, Joan's covered it perfectly. We're just trying our best to concentrate on the messages that the partners are happy to share. We've got those 10 days that we've chosen throughout the month, and hopefully we'll be able to build on that as the campaign continues.
That's fantastic. Thank you. It's lovely to hear what you're doing in Northern Ireland, and 40,000 is absolutely fabulous, isn't it? Cool. I'm now going to come on to Hugh Hugh Thomas. So you're based in Wales. Do you want to sort of say a bit about the setup in Wales and what you've been doing?
Yeah, well, I feel a bit embarrassed, honestly. I feel a bit embarrassed. First of all, thanks so much for the invite. I've taken over, I'm a coordinator here in the LRF, based at Command for the Powys region. I've recently taken over the chair of the Humanitarian Assistance and the Community Resilience Group. So when I first came across 30 Days, 30 Ways, was a meeting, I think, a national societal resilience meeting. I think you were on it, Joe. I'm sure it was your voice as you discussed the 30 days. So I was very much interested really in what we could do. And I've been looking back at my predecessor, going back to pre-COVID, 2018. They very much, they looked at 30 days and they've been part of it. For some reason, it fallen off. No one had picked it up since then. So I was very keen to sort of start that back up with us, really. So that's why I'm here today, really, is to kick off that, really. And I say, I apologise. I've been off for 3 weeks leave, but it was very sort of reassuring and positive in what Joanne was saying earlier on, really, and what they do in Northern Ireland. And I'm hoping to do this very much the same in Devon-Powys and linking with partners across the board. During COVID, we worked really, really strongly with the third sector. The volunteer sector were absolutely fantastic, in Devon-Powys, and really we were inundated with volunteers who couldn't help out enough, really, and then for all these sort of communities and looking after vulnerable, really. So we very much wanted to capture that, really, and make sure that continued, that sort of good feeling, that momentum wasn't lost. And 30 days, 30 ways is another way to continue that as far as what I'm learning, what I've read. So it's very much really, we want to get very much involved, and I will be speaking to my colleagues in warning and informing to push the message out. They have the message out, like we were saying earlier on. It's probably not daily, but to have a 10 or a dozen messages throughout the month, really, to just really sort of reassure people and give that sort of a positive message, which looks like it has been happening, really, with 30 Days, 30 Ways. So yeah, again, apologies. I have become a bit sort of very light to this meeting, but I'm very much keen to by next week, and hopefully this month we'll get some really sort of good stuff done.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. And I must admit, when you talked about COVID, you sort of talk about pre-COVID. I mean, the days before the 2 years is just like flown by. But one thing it did teach us is that many communities, I mean, they set up themselves community resilience-wise. It's absolutely fabulous. And how we actually, keep on with that good work that they've done. I'd like to say IT-wise. But not for my case, that's for sure. we learned how to sort of use IT better. But thank you very much. And I know this panel will be meeting again in 4 weeks' time at the end, so we can all come together and discuss what we've done. And I do love seeing the Welsh tweets in English and then in Welsh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're not the only one. No, be honest, so do I. My Welsh is very poor, I'm ashamed to say. It's a difficult language, but my children speak it fluently, which again, I'm ashamed to say. But yes, thank you. And hopefully, I say we'll be able to get some good messages out now this next few weeks.
Brilliant, great. So Lucy, I'm going to come to you. So Lucy is a bit of a global superstar when it comes to disaster management. You've been advisor during COVID for the Prime Minister's office and government departments, but you've also written a book. I don't know whether you've written it during COVID, but I have downloaded it on Audible. So you're my voice in my ear when I drive to work when the dust settles, which I didn't know I didn't know what it was going to be like, but it's absolutely brilliant. But you've laid yourself out there, all about your experiences, and I think it's absolutely brilliant, because I mean I joined the team in 1986 and 1987 I joined the emergency planning team. So it's a lot of the stuff that you've mentioned is I've sort of dealt on the periphery of. So it's brilliant. So I love the read. So can I come to you, Lucy, about preparedness? So the whole campaign is about being a little bit better prepared, so we can cope better with any incident or emergency that might befall us. And I know we'll talk a bit about what the risks and stuff later, but what would you, as being the guru for everything preparedness, what do you think of the campaign, and what would you sort of tell people to be a little bit better prepared?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, you've kind of so far very well captured the fact that there's two types of watchers to this panel. You've got people who are watching because we've been tweeting all week saying, or more, you know, get ready for 30 days, 30 ways UK. So please come and learn about preparedness. And then you've also got the wonderful tribe that we're all part of, which is emergency planning. And so I think it's very important that that's really remembered at the heart of what we're doing, is that this year, more than any of the other 8 years you've run in the UK, people are looking for guidance. One of the reasons you mentioned the book, one of the reasons there's been a huge reception to the book from the wider public. You know, it's been lovely to hear from emergency planners who like it. They're like, oh, you know, I didn't get my mention when I was with you there, or, you know, you guys knew it. Maybe you didn't know everything about the personal side, but you knew it. The people that have, you know, are coming to book festivals and coming to events are in the wider public saying, do you know how much it means to me to know that you guys think about these things? Of course you should. You know, we're the 5th richest nation in the world. We are supposedly a great nation that puts its, you know, or 4 of our nations together, that puts its communities at the heart. You know, people were saying I was really depressed at the start of the pandemic at the idea of the myth being perpetuated that nobody was ready, because that didn't fit with my idea of what the role of a good, resilient state was. So actually there is a real moment. So there's a real duty on us to guide people through that request to seek help, to know that, you know, I keep tweeting there are plans, there's planning, and there's planners. Because one of the big things, you know, one of the big myths, which I sort of tolerated up until the pandemic, but then I was kind of loud and proud about it. If you note the date I joined Twitter, it was January 2020, is that we have to step out from under the stairs as well. We have to make our tabard on, we have to be a bit more obvious and say to people, there are people doing things. Now, one of the key messages for us is the right balance. And I address that a lot in When the Dust Settles. You know, I make it very clear that I don't think people have to live with the levels of preparedness that a good disaster planner does. So we will talk risk, and in fact, you know, it attracts people, I think, who like spreadsheets, and we'll talk hazard all day long if you'll let us. And I say in the chapter about fear that I don't necessarily think that that's the way, you know, my own family want to live. So certainly I'm very understanding of the idea. But we are an unresilient nation. When we compare ourselves to the levels of preparedness and readiness of comparable places like America and Australia, we do less risk comms, we do less preparedness work, we expect to tell our public less honestly about things that are happening. And you have coordinated and timed this month at a time when people want different and they want more. The other thing you see me do a lot in both books, When the Dust Settles and also my more academic text, The Recovery Myth, is I'm actually a big fan of the plan. You know, I think, you know, we do ourselves down when we say things like plans and lists and checklists don't survive contact with first contact with the enemy. Plans themselves are a very important psychological device. And so there's a real onus on us for these next 4 weeks to be giving people really, really useful information, but also crucially listening to communities. We've got things very wrong as planners in recent years. We are an industry, that a profession or a group or a brethren that really needs to shake itself up as well. What are we missing? And I find social media is an incredible way of testing biases, prejudices, things that I don't know. The pandemic has been a great example of, we might put something out and people will say, what on earth do you mean by that? So this can't just be broadcast. This has to be engagement. So people have to tell us as planners what they need as we go from perma-crisis to perma-crisis. So hugely supportive, and I think this is going to be the biggest and best one yet.
Thank you. I know the last couple of years have been took a dip, I suppose, because all of our colleagues have dealt with COVID and bit of burnout from COVID over the last 2 years. But 2019 was one of our biggest years. Hopefully this year will be bigger than 2019. Fingers crossed. I must admit, yesterday we looked at the stats from last night, and we had over a reach of 1.3 million. So that's absolutely brilliant. So we'll keep an eye on that and see how that goes. Now I would like to bring Jeannie in. So Jeannie, you're the chair of the Emergency Planning Society. So a lot of about bringing sort of emergency planners together. Now, one thing that we from the stats yesterday was there's a lot more younger people tuning in. Now, younger people, I'm in the demographic of the older person now, but the younger people, which is absolutely brilliant. So are you finding that the Emergency Planning Society more younger emergency planners coming on board? And how does the Emergency Planning Society see sort of 30 days going into the future?
Absolutely, a lot more younger people who are very enthusiastic and very, very passionate. Can I just add a little bit to what Lucy said, insofar as we're concerned, the actually 30 days, 30 ways translates into normal language that people can understand and interpret for themselves, and provides tools that they need to actually become within communities a lot more resilient. So it's a massively passive and powerful tool to actually have 30 days, and it brings everybody together because we're all sharing information together. It's multi-agency, it's diverse in the information it's actually providing, and it's providing the tools to such an extent that people are accepting these messages without messages out. You know, why are these messages going out? Is there something that we need to be worried about? And I think that that's an extremely positive message, because it does empower communities. It does empower individuals to start to think, well, what can I do with this learning? What can I do with this information that's being shared with me? And because the contribution, I mean, you've got contribution from voluntary organisations, third sector, from statutory authorities, from Scotland, from England, from Wales, from Northern Ireland. So it's catering for everybody. It's a really, really positive tool, and we've cascaded it through all our members who are sharing it via social media and linking it and creating really good narrative for people to learn as much as they possibly can. As far as the younger generation, I think one of the biggest lessons for us was that it wasn't seen as a career path. So working in emergency planning or resilience wasn't necessarily within a school curriculum or within a recruitment, or when career days were organised. It wasn't one of the things that people looked at because it wasn't understood as being an option for career. And what we've done is created a national student network, and that network is actually the membership are students who are studying in this field, and they are just starting to put together things that will, or opportunities which will result in them going out and contacting schools, university, colleges to actually say, we're here. This is an opportunity for a career. And the point of this career is it is multi-skilled, multi-talented individuals with a huge amount of knowledge and experience that can not only just be used within the emergency planning and resilience sphere, it can be used for anything. The skills and knowledge that you gain from actually this career is incredible. The things that you're asked to do as far as your role is concerned is incredible. I am always amazed by the amount of talent that is out there, and skills as far and competence as far as people who work within this industry. And as I say, you cannot, it's not necessarily just resilience if you don't want to go into that, but it opens up fields and options for you to do all sorts of different careers. And not only that, it actually enables you and provides you the tools for real life, because of the role, because of the skills and the competence that an individual has. So as far as the youngsters were concerned, we've set up this National Student Network. We have mentoring opportunities, and these opportunities can either be a formal mentoring process where students are actually tapping into the people actually undertaking the role and doing formal mentoring, or a buddy system. Obviously, we're working as part of the Trailblazer group for the new apprenticeships qualification that's coming out, which is quite far down the line now. And LPAC have been working really hard to get this all developed and put in, and that's a really, really exciting new opportunity for students coming in, and it will encourage people to actually recognise this as an opportunity for a different or a diverse career pathway, and the society will be providing packages to support and to provide opportunities for CPD and learning, and again experiential learning to complement the academic and the career-based learning that they'll get from the apprenticeships. So we're really exciting plans going forward for youth, but we want to tap into you know, the senior education, so that it's a pathway that people recognise, a qualification that they can recognise that they can go and obtain within either academia or within vocational qualifications. So we're looking at different options as far as that's concerned.
That's great, thanks, Jeannie. I know we talked to the public services course, and we go in sort of, because emergency planning it's always been like a bit like, well, what do they do when there's no emergencies? But it's like, talk about the last 2-3 years and the diverse, like you said, the skills and things that we get involved in over the years is very wide. Thank you very much for that. So what I'll come on to now is obviously the whole of 30 Days 30 Ways UK is set up in the daily chunks, the daily challenges. Yesterday we talked about, just as a bit of a recap, on risks. So we saw a lot of councils. I think there's about 30 councils within the UK playing, and we had lots of interest yesterday, sharing local community risk registers, looking at the national risk register. There's a whole thing about the 30 days is that we've based most of the information for people to have on the national risk register. So we'll talk next week, we'll start looking at sort of floods, severe weather, cybercrime and all of that. So that will be on the cards for next week. Today we're sort of talking a bit about trusted networks, because one of the main things that we do want people to do is if there is an emergency, who are they going to get it from? So there's lots of false information out there, especially on social media, about what's going on with an incident. And we need people to follow, whether it's the local police, the local fire service. That's where you're going to get your factual information from, to try and stop this sort of the wrong information and scaremongering going on along social media that we see quite a lot going on. So it's all about trusted networks. I know from each of you, I mean, I know I follow the Met Office and I get quite a lot of the sort of severe weather warnings through the Met Office. Can I ask each of you, who do you follow? I know this is a bit of a curveball. Who do you follow to get all your information from? So I'll start with Tara.
I would find that the NI Direct website within Northern Ireland would be a very good sort of one-stop shop for all the things to do with emergency and preparedness and resilience. So and they get content even, from other organisations and bodies, and they would review that before they put it up. So that would definitely be one for Northern Ireland citizens to follow and link into.
Brilliant, thank you, Tara. Will that be the same for you, Joan?
Yeah, absolutely. Like they're all credited and are credible and trusted sources. I suppose other ones that we would tap into as well is the likes of our Northern Ireland Community and Voluntary Council, NICVA. Again, just to have that wider piece about community, and like the way Lucy talked about, not rather than us telling people, and it's actually engagement. So that allows us to have that community and voluntary sector input as well. So yeah, those type of trusted networks.
Yeah, thanks, Joan. Hugh, who do you follow?
Again, just trusted networks really is important that the facts, what we're sharing is factual. That's not fake news really, but yeah, very much the Met Office regarding the weather. We, throughout the storms, recent storms at the early part of the year, we're having meetings with them regular. We're having TCGs, SCGs with them present, and they attend our sort of our coordination and training meetings. And also then as Welsh Government, we are meeting them this morning, Friday morning. They send out a brief every month on really all the issues on the horizon, ranging from the cost of living crisis to strikes to COVID updates, everything really. And we speak to them on a daily, weekly basis really to get the factual updates to share with partners really. So they're sort of more or less the main sort of source of information we share.
Thank you. Lucy, who would you say to follow to get the factual information?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting one, because one of the, the last lines in chapter 12 is, I'm not looking for coalescence and groupthink. I want authentic and community-focused emergency plans. And sometimes you can become an emergency planner who no longer believes in the plan. So I think one of the things where, the luxury of perhaps being a slight wild card and being external is that I do follow a range of sources. It's interesting, I too, for things like weather, what does the Met Office say? I'll quite often retweet the government source for a particular document. Even when you do retweet that, that you're going to get a lot of pushback from people saying, that's rubbish. I'm very wary of the idea of the one pure source. But what I am asking people to do, I think, is to really check perhaps into the source that they're looking at. So before they retweet, have a look at the source for credentials, for experience. There are news sources that you can and can't trust, perhaps, or trust the wrong word, but you might take some view on. We have a big clickbait culture now, so the headline may appear much more emotive than the article. One of the things that I've personally found as you become more, bluntly become more followed, is you certainly do take the responsibility of being a trusted person more responsibly. I've always worked on that principle in risk communications, but I think it is a very responsible role. And I think, there are some councils as well. I've called out London, Barking and Dagenham this week for some brilliant tweets that began, they may have well done it before, but they caught my eye with responses to the local, very, very difficult wildfire. And now they're tweeting very, very, very useful information around Pakistan and how to donate money, not stuff, which has been a big campaign of mine. So I think a variety of sources. I also think it's okay to tweet two different views on something. If you're me, it's more difficult for you. The other thing I think with organizations is to think, don't just jump in and retweet because it's a partner agency. And then again, it's that engagement, not just broadcast. Some of the things that you can tweet can be incredibly harmful to certain communities, and think all the time about how who you're following, who you're retweeting is engaging with particularly vulnerable or isolated communities. So that might be a traveller community, or it might be a particular racial group within your society. So really thinking about how you're supporting voices to be heard, and that's a challenge I think we all face at the moment.
Thank you, Lucy. Jeannie.
Okay, with the emergency planner head on for a local authority, was weather warning that came in for the likes of severe snow or flooding, etc. I would check on SEPA, which is our Scottish Environmental and Protection Agency. I go and look at their river data information, because that always enhanced the warnings that you were getting out and provided additional information. It was also it became habit forming insofar as you were constantly checking to make sure the measurements were accurate in the warnings that you were coming out. But it was certainly a useful tool to have. As Lucy, actually looking at a diverse amount of trusted information also helps to provide a better idea as far as what the ongoing picture is, what the ongoing circumstances concerned. I mean, communication is key in emergency planning, and getting that messaging right, getting the information right is absolutely key to how individuals how we prepare, but also how the community prepares us. So it is an important topic to make sure we get it absolutely right. And we don't always do that. However, if we've tried to source that information, we've tried to provide it in a positive way, and then we learn that in actual fact that's not the way we should have communicated it, and we get it better the next time, then that's working towards the eventual goal of having good two-way communication.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you. So yeah, we're 2 days in on 30 Days 30 Ways UK. So we have got 28 more days to go, chaps. And yeah, it's going to be a long month. So tomorrow, introducing tomorrow is all about looking after our own mental health. One of the big things for us as responders to actually make sure that we look after ourselves, but also to look after those that have suffered during the incident or emergency. So Lucy, have you got bring you in here about looking after yourself and how important that is?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really important time, I think, for emergency planners. We suffer a lot of anticipatory trauma because, as I say in several of my podcasts, we are usually 2 seasons ahead. So we're like a fine Paris fashion house. So we got some of the kind of started to think about reasonable worst case scenarios. We don't know if they'll happen, but they start to look more likely probably around 3-4 months ago. You know, that was when I was most irritable. Now, like all of your colleagues, you're into perhaps a zen where you just know you've got to get people through this winter. So there's a couple of things, really. It's definitely time to put your own oxygen mask on. And I'll tweet some out today. Very happy to share some resources that I use to look after yourselves. If you're not feeling burnout and exhaustion at the moment, you would be in a very, very small minority as an emergency planner at the moment. We've worked so hard. So I think one of the things to really consider at this moment is, what are you doing for yourself? That is not selfish. You know, one of the things I make very clear in When the Dust Settles is my career has coincided with a recognition of us as machines. This is a very, very owned machine before you right now. It runs mainly on cake, tea and drama. But what it does do is it has a very clear understanding of its operating manual. And that is on a spectrum of support, everything from blocking off a little bit in the diary where I might sneak off to watch a film, all the way through to, as I have regular psychological debriefing. So that spectrum of what are you doing for you, and seeing both your physical and mental well-being as an asset, you know, the oil that you put in the car. We talk about it, we tweet about it, but we don't, very few people actually work as hard as I do on being able to go from incident to incident. You know, I'm probably, in terms of the phone calls that I've had, I'm probably into my hundreds now of being asked about an incident, being shown personal effects, being asked to respond. And in order to be able to keep thinking about disaster all of the time, you've got to look after your mental resilience, your mental well-being. It's not something you can outsource, and you have every right to ask your employer, if you're employed, of certain things, but the offer may not be all and encompassing of what you need. So it's really important to read around that. The most important book that I'm recommending at the moment as well, because a lot of us are also battling exhaustion and health and other things, is this wonderful little one. I'll hold it right in front of my face. Recovery by Gavin Francis. And at the weekend, I'll re-put up the link. Gavin and I did a wonderful event in Edinburgh on kind of convalescing before you get ready to go and help other people. So loads of help out there, and I'm going to sit and tweet some of those links now.
That sounds good. Thank you, Lucy. That's brilliant. Okay, so
Joanne,
that's where we are.
Sorry,
yeah,
Joanne, can I just come in?
Yes.
The other thing is we've been doing a bit of work with Patrick Dugan and Stuart Andrews, who've done quite a lot of research into creative debriefing. So what they've done is they've put a toolkit of creative strategies for personal debriefing together, which will be available, and we're going to make that available to everybody. And that, again, gives you a few tools to be using as far as what they called it as personal debriefing, but basically stress and anxiety and all these things. So it's basically relevant to people working with the resilient or relevant to people who are not necessarily as resilient as they thought they were. So it's a really useful toolkit, and that will be distributed probably within the next few weeks or so.
Oh, that's brilliant, Jeannie, because I know that's something that we're looking at in Northamptonshire, so we'd really welcome that. That's great. So yeah, like I said, we've got 28 more days to go. So people will meet us, this panel, the same panel, in 4 weeks' time. Hopefully we'll have technical issues all sorted out, and we'll all be back to say how it's been over the month. So we'll have a lot more to chat about, to pick out our best stuff over 30 days, 30 ways. Again, we'll share this over the weekend so people can catch up. I don't know whether I was going to say, is there any specific day that people are looking forward to? My day is, I think I am looking forward to the disaster film night, to see what people what disaster films they can relate to. But also I know one of the ones in next week is about hand hygiene, about washing your hands, and that's been with the campaign since it's been with the campaign since the start in 2015. The importance of hand washing and stopping infection, and obviously all through COVID it came back into the forefront again. So that, I think they're my 2 days. Anybody else want to say what they're? Lucy, what's going to be your favourite?
Yeah, I mean, those are brilliant, because of course it just conveys something that I say a lot in When the Dust Settles, which is sort of how madly diverse our field is. You know, it can be everything from Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones to making sure we all wash our hands. So that is the very nature and the broad church of skills that we bring to it. I think there's always an energy and a buzz around Grab Bag Day. Because Grab Bag Day, I mean, you've had some horrors over the years, and this year I think we've got to make Grab Bag or Brag Bag Day, but we need Grab Bag Day the big one, obviously, as at Lucy Go Bag on Twitter. I'm always here, and this is the big debate. And when you look at the debrief findings from Storm Arwen, there is an onus on people now, I think, to think about their own household preparedness. There's different meanings to the types of bags people get ready, whether it's a more of a kind of I'm out of the house for a few days bag, or it's a more of a prepper's bag, or it's us as responders, what's in our go bag. And I, because I've made such a thing out of the wheelie bag in the book, people ask me what's in your bag. And so I think for us, we're all waiting to see quite where the risky day that is Grab Bag Day goes.
Oh, Lucy, I might have to invite you to the panel on the Grab Bag week. And you can tell us what in your wheelie bag.
It's just too risky. So yeah, and that'll be a great one to follow, and I'm really excited about that day.
Oh, brilliant. Anybody else? We shall have a recap at the end of the month. There's one question from Monica. It's not a question, but she said you're brilliant, which you all are. Absolutely fantastic. So thank you for joining us this morning. And I will probably email you, but I will see you all again in 4 weeks' time. The next panel for people that have joined us is next Friday at the same time. It is 11 o'clock, where we'll be just summarising that week's feeds that we've got. So thank you very much. I'll end it now, and
thank you.
I'll see you all soon. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.